Hi, everybody. Thanks again for coming to another Authors at Google event at the San Francisco office. We're very psyched today to welcome Rob Baedeker and Colin, both of whom are local Bay Areans. That's a word. Chris is an author and a journalist whose work has appeared in the New York Times, Wired, and McSweeney's, and he lives in SF. Rob Baedeker is a performer and a co-founder of Casper Hauser Comedy Troupe, famed for many things, including Obama's BlackBerry and Sky Mall, and also famed for not much of anything. He lives in Oakland. Tony Millionaire, who's actually not here, but he's an illustrator, who's part of the book, which they're going to talk about today, called What to Talk About, is famous for the Stock Monkey series of comics and the syndicated comic strip Makeys, and he lives down south, but we won't hold that against him. So thanks very much again for Rob and Chris for coming today, and please welcome them to Google.
Hello. Hi. Oh, good. We're off to a good start. Thanks for coming out. We're the authors of What to Talk About, and we wrote this book that is a little bit absurd, but it also has a practical element. It's our belief that most of us are doing all right at talking. If you're here, you have a job at Google, you're doing pretty well to have gotten here. But most of us, we think, have about a 10% gap where we could improve.
10 to 12.
10 to 12, thank you. Where we could push a conversation further, start a conversation where we get stuck, or take it to a memorable place. And so we hope that this book will give you some tools to take away and actually use, as well as some flights of absurd fancy. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. We'll start with, we have some case studies here, and we'll start with one about Rachel. If you know, anybody know Tony Millionaire? He does a strip called Mockies and a bunch of other stuff. A great illustrator.
It's a drawing.
Yeah.
It's not a photo.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, yeah. Virtual reality. This is about Raquel. Case study Raquel. Raquel R., a graphic designer and aspiring artist, went to an album release party for a friend of a friend. Everyone at the party was engaging in small talk about the weather, their favorite bands, and so on. But Raquel wanted no part of it. Lame, thought Raquel, popping in earbuds and listening to her iTunes. What a waste of time. A week later, Raquel died in a skydiving accident. Raquel didn't really die. She never existed. We invented her to teach you a lesson. Life is too short to judge other people or to write off opportunities to learn from them.
So yeah, I mean, you can tell now this is sort of a scientific enterprise. We tried to have fun, but that is science, and because we feel like we want to write a funny book, but deep inside we wanted to get better at talking. Like Rob said, I think most of us are fine, but there are those moments. I think there's sort of two key moments in my mind when I wanted a book like this. One is just when you're freaking out, you're in the elevator with someone who you sort of remember but you don't know their name, and you're just, like every thought drains from your head, and you cannot summon a single brain cell to put together a word. So there's those panic moments. But then there's this other kind of moment where you think, I'm only going to live once probably, and why can't every conversation be like that incredible, moving, memorable one I had in 2011 outside that tire shop with my friend? We went on for hours. It was so, we went to deep places. It was a little funny. We got to know each other. I've hung out with that guy like 10 times since then. Why is it just sort of like middling when I see him now? I got the same brain. So why can't I go back to those great conversations? Why can't I always have a great dinner party? So that's sort of the other side of us that I was sort of hoping we would write for. I'm going to read another case study. Again, this is science. This is from chapter 10, our work chapter. Work is a realm where we all need to make conversation. This is about Marvin C. We disguised our identities. Marvin C. has worked for nearly 2 years as a software engineer at some kind of huge software place. But do you want to know Marvin's dirty little secret? He has no idea what software is or engineering. So what does Marvin know? He knows what to talk about. People like to see Marvin. He's curious about them. He's generous with his attention, his interests. He's even honest. I have no idea what software is, he says to coworkers. Tell me about it, they laugh as Marvin leaves. See you on Monday, Marvin. So, let's face it, a lot of success in the workplace has nothing to do with so-called skills. It comes down to knowing what to talk about and how to talk about it. And that's what we want to talk about today.
Right. Marvin is based on someone we met here. No, he's not. Yet. Do you ever have that situation where you run into somebody here or at a different job where you feel like you should know their name, but it's way past the time you can ask? We've got a strategy for that. The Social Security website has a list of the most popular birth names by year. So all you've got to do is guess their age, and if you think they were born around 1980, you look at the top names, and it's like Michael, David, and Jeffrey. And just go bold. Just, hey, Mike, how's it going? And there's a good chance you'll be right.
It's probably right.
Yeah, you're probably right. And if you're not, you'll probably start a conversation anyway. Or if it's your boss, you'll find a new job that's even more exciting. One of the big things we all worry about is what to say when you're on your deathbed, right? How do you find that perfect line that's clever, a little enigmatic, sweet, not too dark, inspiring, and so
because you want to. I mean, this is like your last.
It's your moment.
It's your moment.
Yeah.
You don't want to go out with like a whimper. Let's say something lame.
So we put together a table that really any combination of these will work. So if you just pick randomly from column A, B, C, and D, you get what sled shadows. Perfectly mysterious, right? What did he mean? And you can keep your survivors entertained. Keep this laminated card in your pocket. You never know when the time's going to come, and you'll say something memorable, something inspiring for your loved ones.
Yeah, because we do want to be memorable. That is what we want in life. We want to connect with people. We want to make an impression. We want them to make an impression on us.
The Mirror Life Beagle, again, perfectly appropriate. We're not only, it's kind of a physician heal thyself situation. Chris and I need to work on this, as you can tell. And so we wrote a book, but we're doing research and we're finding out what are the roadblocks? Where do people get stuck when you have to talk to people? So we want to hear from you now, and we just want to gather some data. When you're at a party, when you're at work, think about a situation where you're talking to someone or trying to talk to someone, and think about them. And we'd like to hear a few reports from the field. Where does it get stuck? What does the other person do that makes conversations stall or not start in the first place? What have you experienced?
Your conversation partner gives quick answers. They don't elaborate. It's like no forward progress. They're curt. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah. What else?
They don't stop talking about themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
They
can't
don't
stop talking about themselves. Number one complaint we've heard in our research. What else?
Sometimes it's a dog that I try to talk to.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a dog, and what happens?
They usually don't say anything.
You get nowhere. Okay, that's good. It's not as common, but that's a real problem.
Yeah. The Mirror Life Beagle. Dogs love that one. Yeah. What else?
Sometimes I lose track of what they're talking about after the third or fourth kid.
Yeah. Third or fourth what? Kid?
For the kid, yeah.
Oh yeah. It's adjacent to the self-involved. It's all about their kids. It can be cute for a while.
Stuff you just don't care about.
Stuff you just don't care about.
Okay.
Yeah. For example.
Yeah.
Kardashians.
Let's skip our Kardashian chapter.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's irrelevant to you, right? But they go on and on. What else?
Okay. What about you? What about when things go south on your end and you're panicking or you're just sort of not doing as well as you want, or maybe in retrospect you wish you had done better? Are there things that you feel like areas where you sort of blow it? No shame. We're all friends here. What's that?
Swearing, accent.
Swearing accidentally? We can help you with that.
What's that?
Swearing intentionally.
Swearing intentionally. Yeah, in the back.
Adding too much detail, so you're losing your audience.
That's a good one. Adding too much detail, you say too much, and pretty soon you realize they're not even standing there anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not knowing a good question to ask.
Yeah, not knowing a good question to ask. That sort of, bonking that cyclists and runners talk about, you just sort of, the blood sugar drains and you're left frozen. That happens to me sometimes. And the rabbit hole, right? You go down your own rabbit hole of detail. Any others that you see in other people or that you do?
And to be fair, I should probably say that I also say to talk about things that they don't care about. To be fair.
Yeah.
Good to
Being
be fair.
distracted? You're distracted or they're distracted?
Either.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on, I want, yeah, what was it? That one? Yeah.
Like even on a really, they ask you this really simple question and you can't answer it.
They ask you a simple question, you
You
can,
wouldn't have 20 things to talk about.
yeah, like, what's your name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The hardest is when someone asks about something I have like no idea of the subject matter. So it's usually where I kind of stall.
Yeah, when you don't know and I don't know if you're saying this, but for me, I'm afraid of not knowing the answer or saying something stupid. Is there another one over here? Yeah.
I have a tendency to start thinking about something else when somebody's talking, and realize afterwards that I don't actually know what they said.
Anybody
Do
else
you
have
always
this
think about the
problem?
same thing? Is that always one topic you go to?
Whatever tends to be on my mind or something
Okay.
I'm kind of worrying about.
Okay.
Yeah, so your mind's wandering. Does that happen even if they're interesting, or do they do something that makes you tune out?
I'm not sure. I think, yeah, sometimes it might be that I'm not extremely interested in what they're saying, or there's something else that's kind of on my mind, but it doesn't mean I didn't want to listen, it's just that I accidentally stopped listening.
I love this point. What's your name?
Jeff.
Jeff? So Jeff's saying something key here. I didn't want to stop listening, but my mind just went away. That's what this is about, right? Those moments where you actually want to listen. We're going to give you some ideas for that in a minute.
When you're trying to find a topic that both people are interested in, and it just comes off as awkward instead, you never find it.
Trying to find a mutually interesting topic. Do you have an example in mind?
Well, if you're meeting with someone you don't really know very well, you're at a conference or on a first date or something, and you're trying to start a conversation,
Yeah.
sometimes you can just get off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find nothing interesting. How's the weather?
Yeah.
Eventually that gets boring.
Yeah.
How's the weather gets boring pretty quickly, especially here.
Nick, you had a...
When you use up those kind of 4 words of Russian that you knew and then you're kind of at a loss because you can't communicate anymore?
Yeah, travel situations where your language is limited. We have a chapter on that.
For me, sometimes when I'm at work and someone will ask me a question about something and my mind will go to like a not safe for work story. Stuck on it and I can't think of how to say something else.
Yeah, so how do you keep it appropriately work respectable but still interesting, right? So Chris, you've been parsing this data, and I think we hear these patterns a lot when we were writing the book and when we talk to people, and they're pretty common patterns.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing is stuff that we heard all, over the course of the 12 years it took to write this book. It's similar stuff, and I think it's sort of what I'm hearing is that it breaks down into sort of 2 or maybe 3 sections. There's how do you start a conversation? How do you get it going? How do you just get it into first gear? And then once you're going, how do you remain interesting? How do you remain interested? How do you not curse accidentally or intentionally? Once things are sort of humming, how do you keep it there? And then there's one that didn't really come up yet, but I feel like you were about to say this. How do you get out of a conversation? Either
Anybody
one
have that challenge? Yeah.
How do you get out of a great conversation, but you're just done? Or how do you get out of a crabby conversation?
So we're going to give you some tools that will help you in the beginning, middle, and end. You can put these to work right now and automatically elevate the quality of your conversations by about 6%. You guys interested? Great. All right. First one is beginnings.
So getting into a conversation, I think that's where maybe that's like the highest concentration of panic. They're standing there, you're at a party, you're at work, you're at a family gathering, and there's someone you don't really know that well. It's a glancing relationship with the woman who checks your gas meter or whatever, and you feel like you got to say something. And I think a lot of us, that panic sort of morphs into this sense that the stakes are high. This has got to be something really good that I'm saying. And the more seconds that pass, the higher the bar goes. Oh my God, I've now waited 4 seconds. I've got to say something really good. This is getting weird. I definitely can't ask about the weather right now. And that's where we feel like, actually, well, the first step is lowering the bar. And the way you do that is understanding something that I think we all know and lose sight of. Everyone wants to connect. We're all idiots. No one knows what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing. We're all winging it. When you think about it, conversation is this thing. It's the glue in every situation, professional, social, romantic, other things that don't have words for them. And yet, no one really teaches it to us. There's no finishing school for conversation. They teach you to talk up until like age 3, and then they just sort of throw you in the water. And I think what bears remembering is that we're all in the same situation. Some of us pass better as competent people, but none of us is actually competent. So when you sort of go into a social situation with that in mind, that can help sort of take the edge off a little bit, and then you do what we recommend, which is like an on-ramp. Picture getting onto the highway. You don't start at 60. You go slow. Small talk gets sort of poo-pooed in our culture. We poo-poo the poo-pooing because we think small talk is actually a very safe, non-threatening way to establish really important visual, non-verbal information about ourselves. I'm not a threatening person. I am a threatening person. I would like to have a serious conversation right here. This is going to be very brief. Let's not get into it. We're establishing all these things just by saying, I really like the weather, or where did you get those shoes? And so no shame in saying really boring things, because it's just going to last for a few moments, and pretty soon you're on your way to something else.
Who had the point about like closed off answers, like, yeah, that close the conversation? This is our next tool, which is cold openings, questions or starting lines that are a little more open, that allow people to tell stories, get beyond the weather, get beyond yes and no questions. And we're going to give you a few examples and actually let you try them. Here's one we recommend. If you had an additional eye in the middle of your back and you were online dating, would you mention it in your profile or wait till the first date? We want to see what you think. Take 20 seconds, if you would, and turn to someone sitting next to you and ask them and get their opinion. We're going to see what the results are. Literally 20 seconds. Ask 20 seconds each. Ask someone sitting next to you. You guys can join up here. Who said mention it in your profile? You're the only guy that's going to mention it? Two people. Who said wait till the first date? A lot of you didn't vote.
Third date.
Third date. Thinking outside the question. Let me get another read. Who said mention it in your profile? Okay, about 27%. Who said mention it when you have the date, first date? Still not voting. Second date, third date, is that? Yeah. Oh, okay. Wow, okay. For those of you who said online profile, why?
Because it weeds out all the people that wouldn't be cool with it in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, just get it up front. Like, it's going to happen at some point. You might as well just weed out the people before you start having 3 dates with them.
A sieve.
Yeah.
Attract weirdos who just
Yeah. You want to attract weirdos who just want to see it?
Wow. Well,
Pretty discriminatory to weirdos.
So, for those that would wait till the first date, how would you just like bring it out there?
Yeah, let's hear your logic here. Who said wait till the first date? How would you bring it up?
Or third or
Third or fourth.
Being that my third eye isn't that big of a deal, so I don't want to be prejudged for it.
Right.
I like them to like me first before they judge my third eye.
Yeah, did you hear that? Yeah. Try to downplay the significance.
What are your dates that your back is exposed? Like, what are you doing?
What are you doing on the date that your back is exposed?
Yeah, that's the first date. Let's go swimming for the first date.
You're riding a tandem bike shirtless up Telegraph Hill, obviously. Yeah. Here's the second question. Worst sunburn you've ever had? 20 seconds, exchange stories, go. Do you have a good sunburn story, or did you hear one?
As a kid running around like for hours and having
we're hearing a sunburn story.
The one blister kind of experience on my back, kind of a couple of blisters, but that was the worst and I'll never do it again and probably took 5 years off my life.
How old were you during this sunburn?
Must have been about 8 or 9 or something.
8 or 9, yeah. Anybody else?
And I'm sorry, where was this?
It was in Argentina.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
There's a lot more there, I feel.
There's a lot more sun and like I was a kid and back in those days you didn't really put so much suntan cream on.
Right. Yeah, our parents just
go
in
exactly.
the sun.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a problem. Did anybody hear a good one or tell a good one? Worst sunburn?
Okay, well, let's dive in right there. I mean, already, let's say that you said this question to someone at a, like a standard, like a roller disco, and someone says this to you, already you're off to the races. You can ask, what's your name? James. You can ask James about Argentina. You can ask about childhood. You can ask about sun. You can ask about, what kind of parenting strategies he grew up under. Pretty soon you're taking like sort of a jokey thing, and you are connecting it to the stuff we care about, which is life.
Yeah, the possibilities start to branch out. Here's the last one. How do you pronounce this word? Everybody see it? 5 seconds. See if your partner knows. Go.
I want to know who feels the most confident. Raise your hand if you feel like you might be the person who can say it with the most confidence. You feel very confident about this.
Inchoate.
Okay.
Inchoate or inchoate?
Okay, so already we have something we can talk about. Why does this woman feel so confident? What's her deal? Like, where did she grow up? What contributed to this weird personality where she just feels so confident about the way she says this word?
Go.
Origin, German, and it means to, when you drive, suddenly stop. That's what it means.
It means when you drive and suddenly stop?
Stop. You have a bad break at a stop sign. That's the first English.
Okay, so now we know she's got some real issues, like with honesty. So that's something, pretty soon you would be having like a pretty intense conversation, I imagine, a pretty inchoate conversation.
Yeah.
So how do you suggest we go about using this as a cold opening there? Because it seems like we'd have to walk around with like little note cards being like,
right.
Bingo.
Pronounce this for me.
You got to write it down. You got to write it down. Yeah.
Well, I actually have a friend who has a shirt with the letters N-I-C-H-E on it that he likes to wear and then go up to people and say, how do you pronounce this?
That's good.
Is it?
So I know what you're asking, and I think it's a really good question, because you don't want to seem like a sort of a skeezy person who goes around with lines, right? Because who wants to talk to that person? That's disingenuous. So I think this gets at something that I think is sort of core to our book. You sort of have to check in with yourself before you have a conversation, and I think it can be hard to do because you do get caught up in the sort of pacing of it or the anxiety if it's an anxious conversation, and you sort of forget every single thing about yourself. Like, what do I think? What are my actual interests? I'm just trying to keep this like conversation going. You forget who you are. But I think if you can take a moment, and one thing I recommend, if you're, say, meeting someone for a beer, instead of getting there 4 minutes late, get there 4 minutes early, put your phone in your pocket, walk around the block. You don't actually have to try to have a thought. You just have to walk around the block, and the systems will start to sort of come online again. And you will, instead of just like taking in information while you wait, you will sort of, even without trying, check in with yourself. So why does this matter in terms of saying skeezy opening lines to people. Because you'll be checking in with that core curiosity and that sort of genuine interest in people. You really do want to know about their sunburn. You know, if we're all honest, if we can really sort of check in with ourselves, just to use some Northern California language there, I think we'll find that we care about people, we want to connect, we're not skeezy. I mean, like maybe a couple people, but no, but in all seriousness, we're not skeezy. We just want to like make conversation. And I think that if you ask the same question, having sort of connected with that genuine part of yourself, it will not seem like a canned line, or it will, but it will be forgiven.
Great. Let's go on to the middle. What happens in the middle is you bonk out, right? Somebody said it. You draw a blank, you have an awkward moment, and you bail, or you say something work inappropriate, or something else gets you off the rails. So strategies for the middle to keep the momentum going, to keep their interest, to keep your interest if your mind is wandering. Here are a few. The first one is do your work, do your homework, do some research. And you can think about 3 things to bring to a party or to a lunch or anywhere where you know you might need something to talk about. And we're going to give you some things as well. First one is, and these are obvious, but we don't do this. Something you read in the news, something's going on about that plane in Malaysia, about Crimea. Read the first paragraph. That'll jumpstart your conversation and you can ask questions. A big idea, so it doesn't need to be topical, but something happening in the world, a trend, something you want the other person's opinion about. And finally, fail-safe, something cute your pet did or your kid did. 3 or 4 kids, it gets old, but it's usually interesting for at least one, especially if the other person has a pet or a kid. Now, we've got here some research for you and some tools. Maybe you could just pass these back. These are cards that you can use in the middle, and you'll find prompts on them. And there's something to notice about the prompts, and it's the same idea behind how do you pronounce inchoate. There's a comfort with ignorance. We've got to admit we don't know everything, and even point that out in ourselves, because it lowers the bar. Too many people get hung up on having to feel like they're smart, or that they come across as intelligent, that they know everything, and we're afraid to admit, I don't know how to pronounce this word, or I don't know what's going on in Crimea, or I don't know what a tornado is. Help me out, right? If you've got a card and you're sitting next to someone who also has a card, pass it back. So every pair should have 1 card. And if you don't have a card, raise your hand so that folks in the back can get one. And again, we want to gather data on what works here and what doesn't work. So pair up, find somebody with a card, and take 20 seconds each to weigh in on the question on your card, and we're going to see what works. So 20 seconds, go for it.
The life motto?
What's your name? Victoria, what was your question?
Oh, so we didn't get to mine, but mine is, oh, thank you. Mine was the best thing you've ever done, but we actually used Luella's question.
Luella, what was yours?
Who do you think talked about you most recently, and what did they say?
Ooh, juicy. Do you want to share your answer? Is that, yeah?
So we decided it had to be something bad that was said. So we got into this juice. So I'm from the Bay Area, and there was this girl from my high school who had a falling out with me like 3 years ago. And I recently went out to drinks with one of our mutual friends, completely, separate from her. And she like freaked out about it and is like trying to basically swing this girl to not be friends with me. So that was like the juice.
Wow, a campaign of terror against you. It opens up a lot of possibilities. Bay Area, high school, you can go in many directions. How about you guys here, UCLA? What did you guys talk about?
True or false, washing your chicken just splatters the bacteria everywhere?
Washing your chicken before you cook it just splatters the bacteria everywhere.
Works against you.
True.
And we basically talked about how you wouldn't necessarily wash your chicken for bacteria. It would just, as you cook it, it would just die. So
Great, I love this. Questioning the premise of the question, right? Yeah. And that led you to, did you get into any
So we were
cooking?
wondering why you would wash your chicken for other reasons. Which would
the
be
myriad reasons you would wash your chicken aside from cooking. So this is an actual thing that if you were used to washing your chicken, but it's counterproductive. What?
I grew up on a farm. I was thinking actual chicken.
Great. Now I want to hear about the farm you grew up on. We're off and running. Or that stalled conversation has suddenly got some momentum. Okay. We're going to look at 2 more strategies quickly for jump-starting a conversation in the middle. Chris is going to walk us through these.
So curiosity, like I said, curiosity has got to be at the heart of your heart when you talk to someone. And it's not just any curiosity. I think the kind of curiosity that works best, that elicits the best kind of responses, is a curiosity for stories. I think that's what we all want to hear. Everyone likes a story. What we don't like is boring, sort of abstract ideas if they're not couched in terms of a story. Let's say you're camping. You've got 2 campfires here. Everyone can picture a campfire. Here's one, and someone's just about to talk around the campfire about, God, San Francisco is not the same anymore. It's changing. All this sort of new money's coming in. So you could hear that conversation. Or you go to this campfire and someone says, "Once upon a time." Which one do you like? Just having heard those little snippets, which one do you choose? Once upon a time, right? What we like is sequence. This is our theory at what to talk about. People like to hear a sequence of events. They like to hear a narrative. So when you're deploying your curiosity in a conversation, don't just say, "What are you all about?" That's too abstract. What do you think about San Francisco these days? Too abstract. I prefer something smaller but concrete with a sequence involved. What's your morning like? What's your morning routine? Mine is sort of screwy. I don't know. I'm running around trying to get breakfast, to get the kids' lunch made. Have to have a little argument with my wife. And then run to the bus. Why am I always running to the bus? I don't know. I know what time it comes. Why am I always late? Pretty soon you can get you get sort of a narrative going, and you can ask someone, what's your standard morning like? How did you get to this party tonight? And pretty soon they're saying something that ostensibly doesn't seem interesting, but they're walking you through concrete steps, and then pretty soon you're both on each other's hooks.
Great. And the final strategy for the middle? Shoes.
You do shoes. Shoes
are about noticing what's going on in the moment and generating conversation out of it. So everybody's wearing shoes or not wearing shoes. Something's going on down there. Ask a question about it. Where'd you get your shoes? That's a cool color. What do you call it? What's your favorite pair of shoes? There are a million stories in footwear. There's something kind of primal about it. But don't limit yourself to shoes. Notice what's going on. I see that you're holding your back. Have you had back trouble lately? Or you're smiling. Are you thinking of something funny? This is the in-the-moment strategy. And there are a billion offers. We call these offers in the world of improvisation, right? Noticing what's going on and giving someone the gift of curiosity, asking about those real things. Okay, we're going to give you one more tool. And this is a tool, again, you can pull out at a party, at lunch, when you go back to your desk. We're going to ask you to create a life motto. A life motto. But the trick is, it doesn't have to be clever or funny or interesting. It just has to be a collaboration. And Chris and I will demonstrate this for you. But you're going to do it one word at a time. And we'll show you how this works. And you'll do it either with 1 or 2 partners. So 2 or 3 of you. And the life motto is just one word at a time. And again, you follow whatever's going on. We'll try it now.
Yeah, no overthinking it. You just go for it.
Our life motto is?
Always
go
to
the
store
when
you're
hungry.
Done.
There you go. That's our life motto. It's good advice, right?
Yeah.
And we just discovered that together. Yeah. Pair up. You only have 10 seconds to do this. A life motto doesn't have to be funny or clever or even make sense. You just have to come up with whatever you create together. Life motto, one word at a time. Everybody got it? Yeah. Go.
Make
So Robin, would you mind sharing the life motto? You and what's your name? Rob.
Life
so
motto.
Robin and Rob put together a life motto, and here it is.
When the sun sets over the city, smile heavily.
When the sun sets over the city, smile heavily. Bravo.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Good one.
Anybody else have one?
Life is a beach ball of sand.
Life is a beach ball of sand. Bravo.
True.
Bravo. One more to cap off our life mottos. You guys got one?
We got one.
Don't wear pink if your father says so.
Don't wear pink if your father says so. Bravo.
Unassailable.
Bravo. Which brings us to the end of conversations.
Okay. You're having a wonderful conversation at your friend of a friend's party. It's just been going on for like 6 minutes. You can't believe how interesting this thing is, and you gotta end it. You're sick of it. You're having fun. It's nothing wrong with it. You're sick of it. You gotta get out of there. Or you can't believe you're stuck talking to this person. It's so boring. I mean, it's like they just don't have a single thought in their head. They're not interesting. What do they do all day? I mean, it's just like seems like they've never had a life experience. You want to get out of there. Both situations, you don't want to be rude. You're not an animal. You're not a monster. How do you end it? It's the same for any situation, any conversation. It was so nice talking to you. Exit.
And that's the end.
Yeah. And what does that do? You're ending with confidence. It's a decisive, clean break. Look, you've been friendly. You've been disarming. You've exposed yourself during this conversation. You connected as a human. Those are all great things. But you want to end confidently and cleanly and walk away and do what?
Go ride your bike up Telegraph Hill without your shirts on.
Right.
Thanks for coming out. Do you guys have questions? Yes.
It was so nice talking to you, but now I have to, or just full stop?
It was so nice talking to you, full stop.
So no
That's
excuse,
the bold
nothing.
way.
Yeah.
But now I have to is another option. Now I have to go to a movie. Bye. Yes.
What about when you can't walk away?
What about when you can't
Like
walk away? You're
the
in
person
an
next
elevator
to you
or a submarine.
on an airplane.
Yes.
Like you strike up the conversation before takeoff.
Yeah.
That's why you have this book.
But you
Okay?
There's
You can
some
open it.
thoughts
It was
about-
so nice talking to you.
Some people don't
You
take
guys
the
said
hint.
what? To her. You can still use the line, right? You have to find a way to break that's not walking away. Yeah?
Slippery slope, the bathroom thing.
So could you talk about the meticulous research and the shockingly over-specific percentage numbers you quote?
Yeah, how did we do our research?
How did you
and
arrive at that?
How did
Yeah.
we arrive at those numbers? Well, we used big data. What else?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. How do you sort of like get into these weird questions? I would say two things. One, don't be afraid of being weird. We're all weird. Let it show. And two, you can create a little segue, a little pivot. This is going to sound weird. I was having this question in my mind, or I was, refer to a conversation you had the other day with your aunt. We were talking about chicken. Can I ask you this question we were talking about?
Yeah. But context matters, right? The chicken question might not work in a job interview. You got to read your audience. Yeah.
A friend of mine was in his med school interviews, or maybe residency, one of the two. And the person interviewing him asked about his hobbies, and he's like, "Oh, well, I really love to juggle." And he was being facetious. And this guy goes on to talk about how he is basically a semi-professional juggler. So
yeah. That's what we call in the business the juggler's conundrum. There's no way out. It's checkmate. You're done.
I think it's great that you wrote this book, but what about the conversation haters? For instance, libraries, you can't have a conversation there. Muni, even Google buses have banned it.
That's a good question. I mean, in all seriousness, there's lots of situations where you don't want to be having a conversation. Maybe you are in a library. Maybe you're shy. You don't feel like talking. Yeah, these are things that we address in the book. But
the important thing is when you want to have a conversation and it's not happening. So if you don't want to talk and that's working for you, carry on. It's great. But our theory is that most of us have that 10, 11% of time where we wish we could have connected, where we feel like we missed an interesting story or the opportunity to meet someone. So that's what this book is for.
But it's true, if you're in a situation where you don't want to talk or it feels inappropriate, own it. No apologies for not wanting to talk. That's fine.
I'm curious if you have a chapter on how to navigate awkward conversations, because once my sister was on a date and the guy kept on, anytime there was a silence, he was like, awkward silence, awkward silence.
Yeah.
And then I also, even with the, it's nice talking to you, I'm an admin, and so people always come up to me and feel like they can chat with me for hours on end, which is nice, but I've gotten really good at being like, oh, it's so nice talking to you, I'll see you later. And they're like, okay. And they'll just linger. I've gotten good at putting on my headphones and being like, okay, I really have to do some work now, Yeah. So do you have any suggestions or anything in your book
I think
on
you
that?
answered your second question for yourself. Yeah. I have to do some work. I'll see you later. For the first one, the guy that fills every silence with awkward, our recommendation is this. Is there one more question?
Topics to bring up with your boss's boss's boss in the elevator as we
Best and worst topics to bring up with your boss's 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 boss. Yeah. They've probably got some interesting shoes, so that's a good place to start. The context matters, right? A, do you want to talk to them? And B, what's your purpose here, right? If it's just to connect, then something small. Shoes, a news story, a question, of which you have many. If you've got a broader context, then you need to be ready for that. You need to prepare depending on what you want to have happen, right? If you've got a goal in mind, be strategic about it and prepare those topics.
Well, let's talk about goals, for example. Let's say you're angling for something. You want to do a little sort of jujitsu or something. Maybe you want to undermine the boss. This is a controversial recommendation, but maybe you want to do a subtle undermining to throw off the power differential. Tell me your question again. No. I mean, tell me. Repeat the question that you.
I wanted to know the best and worst topics that you should bring.
What? See, when I say what, it throws things off. So your boss's boss says something. I'm sorry, what? They're not accustomed to that. It throws things off, and then the playing field is a little leveler.
Okay. Well, that brings us to our end. It was so nice talking to you.
Thanks, guys.